In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate and talk about the concept of Java methods and parameters. We've been doing methods all along, but here I want to take some time just to focus strictly on the concept again on methods and parameters and how they actually work within our program. So a method is a set of code which is referred to by name. So we create a method and then we give it a name, and later we can invoke at any point within the program simply by utilizing the method's name. So think of a method as a subprogram, right, that acts on data and often returns a value. So in Java, methods and sometimes known as functions are really the same thing. So don't get confused over when someone says Java methods or Java function, right? They're one of the same things. The names are just used interchangeably. Now, parameter, on the other hand, is a technical term for the value between the round brackets of your method headers. Okay, so you give it a name to the method, and then within the set of brackets, you specify certain values, and those are called parameters. So first, I'm going to demonstrate methods, and then of course, I'm also going to demonstrate the parameters, and let's take a look at how we can connect the concept and apply them. So let's jump right in. Let's open up our Java Eclipse editor. So once we're in the Java Eclipse editor, let me go ahead and create a new class. So simply right click, select new, and then choose class. Opens up a new dialog box called new Java class. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it method param and click finish. And this creates a public class called method param. It could be any name. I just named this so that we can relate to the methods and parameters. Now within this class, of course, we can start creating our methods. But let me go outside this class. Okay, so I'm going to go outside and then, in fact, put a comment here. And then I'm going to say returns the minimum of two values, right? So I'm going to say of two numbers. And you'll see in just a minute what actually happens. Create a method and then define it. Okay, but before we can actually call our method, let me go ahead and create this first. So I'm going to say public static int, and I'm going to use the min function and then set my parameters. So it'll be int, let's say n1 for my first number, and then int n2 for my second number. Open our curly braces, specify int min, and then just do a for loop. So I'm going to say, for example, if n1 is greater than n2, min equals n2. Otherwise, or else, give me min equals n1. So just a simple if statement, and then finally return the min. Now at this point, this code is simply going to return the minimum of the two numbers. So it's going to compare whether n1 is greater than n2 and then provide min equals n2, else Java should give me min equals n1. Now in this instance, notice there's no print statement, so our code obviously is incomplete at this point. But importantly, I would like you to focus on this particular line where it says public static int min function and then our parameter values, which is n1 and n2. Now these need to be defined, so we need to specify those before we can tell Java to use these values. So I'm going to go up and then do public static void and then main, and then of course our string array and the command line argument. Open the curly braces, and now go ahead and specify int a, for example, equals just any number. It could be 11, and then the other integer b would equal, let's say, 6. And then my function also needs to be defined. So int c would be our min function. And here I'm going to specify the two parameter values, a and b. and then of course our semicolon. And I will tell Java to print, so system.out.print, and I can say minimum value equals, and then of course plus the C, which is a variable. Great. So let me delete these extra lines here. So far we have our public class called method param, and then of course we created the public static void, defined the variables, gave a print command, and then specified that we need to have the minimum of the two numbers and the values of those returned. Of course, there's some syntax errors we need to insert and make sure our parentheses, curly braces are complete, because we need open and close, and then we need to also specify and make sure our parentheses is complete. Let me correct the print in statement also. Perfect. So once we have this code, now obviously if I run this, the minimum value for the variable b is 6, so it is going to, as a result, display this value when I execute this code. Let me in fact do this. So let's go ahead and click on run. Save and launch dialog box appears. Click OK, and here's the output which says minimum value is 6. Now here, once again, the important element or aspect about methods and calling these methods and then specifying the parameters is the fact that we first, of course, define our modifier, which for instance would be the public or could be private and so on. And we'll talk about modifiers a little later on, but for right now, just know that this is called a modifier. Then we specify the return type, and the method can return a value, and then of course the name of the method, and then the list of parameters, and then our body of the method goes on the bottom. And there are a couple of ways in which a method is called. So for example, a method can return a value, or it can return nothing, or no return value. And in this particular example, we defined a method and then we called it. And if we were to use the void keyword, for example, it would allow us to create methods which do not return a value. And you can see up here that we use the public static void, whereas on the bottom we use the public static int, and then we use the function. And in a similar fashion, we can also pass the parameters by value as well. Now methods can also be called within the same class. Let me in fact show you this. So let me get rid of this code here. Put a comment here quick. So we'll be calling methods in same class, or in fact let me create a new class so we don't have to delete this code. I'm just going to right click, choose new, and then click on class. I'm going to call it calling methods in same class. Click finish. Great. So we have a public class, and here I'm just going to go ahead and do the keyword. So public class, give it the same name, save methods, open the curly braces, and then do our public static void main, and then use string command line argument, and open another curly braces, and then specify, let's say, print 1. I can do something like print 1 again, semicolon in both cases, and then do something like print 2. Next, I'm going to do public static void, and then to the print 1 method, open the curly braces, do a printout. So system.out.print in, and let's do hello world, could be any text, semicolon, close the curly braces, and let's do public static void and do print 2. Open the curly braces, specify print 1, and then print 1 again. So let me in fact get rid of this duplicate because I already have the public class called calling methods in same class. So just get rid of this, and of course we need to fix the parentheses as well, and tell Java that we do need to use the print in. Great. So here we're simply calling methods in the same class. In other words, this demonstration or this code shows you how to call a static method from a method within the same class. So if I were to run this, for instance, save and launch dialog box appears, click OK, and it will print out hello world, and then of course the third time hello world as well. So that way we can also call static methods within the same class. Or, as you saw earlier, they can be called anywhere else as well. As long as you give it a name, these methods can be called anytime, anywhere, whether it's within the same class or outside the class. And I also demonstrated the concept of parameters using those values and then calling your methods as well. So I hope this helps. Practice, understand the concept, a method, and parameters, and how to use methods within your Java code. So this may be a little confusing in the beginning, but once you get the hang of it and you practice a couple of times, it'll become easier. So I hope this helps, and let's move to the next lesson.